Good morning. Hello, everybody. So welcome to class this week. I'm recording this a little bit later. It was supposed to be on Saturday. Today's on Wednesday. So this is just the recording, fortunately not a live class. That we had a retreat with Rinpoche this past weekend, an online retreat, Vajrayana retreat, which was just fantastic on the Saturday and Sunday, so I had to cancel the class. And then I just said I would make a recording. So here it is a few days later, little late to start, so to speak, but just recording it right now. So I'll make it available, of course. You'll be able to see it here on, I guess, on YouTube or just via Zoom recording. So thank you for coming, whoever's watching, and I'm happy to offer this class to everybody today. I've been away for a couple of weeks. I was flying almost 2 weeks straight, which was really, really tiring. As a flight attendant, work as an international flight attendant out of Vancouver, and that was I was in Australia and Korea and some the United States, a bunch of stuff like that. So I was very, very happy to get home here to Nelson. It's beginning of March here, and spring's already on the way. You can really feel it. I just big mistake. I went to see the doctor just for a checkup right when I came from the 8-hour drive from Vancouver 2 weeks straight. She's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're still alive." So I just love just the 2 weeks off I have every month just to be here and to do Dharma online with Rinpoche, be with our Dharma community, and just be able to go on hikes here in Nelson, BC, and go to the hot springs and just relax and feel like myself. So anyway, just sharing that with everybody. Happy to be here now. I'd like to do a special dedication. Of course, the last little bit, it's been, I guess over a week and a half since we had a class. And since that time, we've had a huge war start in the Ukraine with Russia. It's ongoing. So very, very terrible. I would like today's class will be a short presentation on Buddhist concept of emptiness or ultimate truth, sort of like the core, I guess, organizing principle of Buddhism, selflessness. And so I would like to dedicate it to everybody suffering with this war. Emptiness is the core teaching of the Buddha as the ultimate medicine or panacea for all of our ills and all of our sufferings in samsara. Really, when you think about it, all true sufferings in the world have their origins in our self-cherishing mind. And our self-cherishing mind is based on our self-grasping mind, that we think there's actually an I or a self to things, let's say. And most of our to ourselves, that our self is what they call inherently existing from its own side, or in other words, standing outside of any kind of relationship in and of itself. And this is what allows you, if you have this attitude, which we all do, almost sort of in a primordial way of our ignorance, that we're sort of over against the world, standing in opposition to people and things. And in that way, we're aggressive and covetous, and all these negative mental states arise because of that. So may our class on emptiness today be sort of put towards just sort of sending out these prayers, this energy towards ending the conflict in the Ukraine, and urge everybody to do what they can to bring about peace and an end to the conflict. I come from a military family, and my whole life grew up hearing about all the horrible things of war. I've been fortunate enough that I haven't been in one. I've been very, very lucky this lifetime with my karma. But anyway, one of my favorite philosophers, Emmanuel Lebinos, 20th century, famous Jewish French philosopher and phenomenologist, one of Edmund Husserl's students, and Martin Heidegger's students, came up with a very popular, amazing philosophy. It got very popular in the last, I guess, 40 or 30 or 40 years of the 20th century, and still popular now. It's two famous books being Totality and Infinity and Otherwise in Being. I really recommend people read them. They're amazing books. But he always said in his own philosophy, ethics is first philosophy. In other words, before ontology, before epistemology, before metaphysics, before anything, the first thing is our interconnectedness with other beings, with other people in particular, and our responsibilities and duties on an ethical level to them. That comes first and foremost in the world. we're in a relationship with others. They are what give us the world we end up living in terms of its ontology. In other words, how things exist for us, how things, the way the world looks like the way it is, that arises out of this sort of primordial connection that we have to others. And in particular, being a Jewish philosopher, he always said, first and foremost, that the other presents itself to you as an ethical need, in the sense that other people come to you for help. Other people sort of crash into your sort of selfish, like the world of totality of your own self projects in the own kind of little movie you're in. Other people come into it because they need help, or that's, that you need to help them. So there's this sort of primordial ethical responsibility we have to others. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. You can sort of argue same thing with Buddhism. We don't have ontology. In the epistemology that we have here on valid cognition is trying to see what can we know if things are illusory, if things are changing and things are just a product of your mind and completely insubstantial and dreamlike. What kinds of rights, roles, and responsibilities do we have in a world like that? And so ethics first with Buddhism is too, as we've seen, just sort of teaching a little bit on karma, is basically, what makes the world go around is karma. And the good karma, the happiness, the joy, the bliss we all want, arises from having a proper ethical relationship to other people, being of service, sending out love and compassion to all beings, and vice versa. Being an ethical failure to the world or to others is what creates suffering for yourself and for other people. So ethics as first philosophy, even as Buddhists. So I'd like to just sort of send that out. May we do what we can here for the war in Ukraine, and I hope this war doesn't last long or even spread. So do what you can to serve and to help others. And we'll do what we can right now, just with our own class. So let's start just doing 3 rounds of 9-point breathing. So again, we just sort of start every class with this. 3 breaths, inhaling through your left nostril and out through your right, getting rid of desirous attachment, being sort of hung up or stuck on things. Reversing next 3 breaths, inhaling through our right and exhaling through our left, getting rid of anger, reactivity, irritation, frustration, so forth. And then 3 deep breaths through both nostrils, holding the last inhalation just at your navel, putting your mind, your prana, and your breath all together in one, and just at the navel, holding it until it's uncomfortable, and then just in a really nice, relaxed way, exhaling. So doing this whole process 3 times. Okay, so now just starting our class with the recitation of the Heart Sutra. Sort of the whole sort of prayer is an invocation of emptiness. So we always want to sort of start with our proper view on emptiness, start and finish with that. Just like the Kadampa say, we start with a good intention and end with a good dedication. So even our intention here, we can just take a moment, that our intention, we sort of set it as being intention of bodhicitta. Everything we're doing this morning will be for the benefit and enlightenment of all sentient beings without exception. And we're doing this intention, we're cultivating this intention, we're doing this practice within sort of the bounds or context or view of a correct view of emptiness. Things are like dreams or illusions imputed by the mind. Okay. Homage to the perfection of wisdom, the Blessed Mother. Thus I've heard at one time the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajgriha on Mass Vulture's Mountain. They have the great assembly of monks and a great assembly of nuns and great assembly of bodhisattvas. That time the Blessed One was absorbed in the concentration of countless aspects of phenomena called profound illumination. That time also Superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, was looking perfectly at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, looking perfectly at the five aggregates being empty of inherent existence. Then through the power of Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said to Superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, how should a son of the lineage train who wishes to engage in the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and Superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, replied to Venerable Shariputra as follows. Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of the lineage wishes to engage in the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look perfectly like this. Subsequently, looking perfectly and correctly, also at the five aggregates being empty of inherent existence, form is empty and emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form, and form is not other than emptiness. Likewise, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are empty as having no characteristics. They're not produced and do not cease. They have no defilement, no separation from defilement. They have no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discriminant, no compositional factors, no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mentality, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no tactile object, no phenomenon. There's no I element and so forth up to no mentality element and also up to no element of mental consciousness. There's no ignorance, no exhaustion of ignorance, and so forth up to no aging and death, no exhaustion of aging and death. Likewise, there's no suffering, origin, cessation, or path, no exalted awareness, no attainment, also no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there's no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide in the perfection of wisdom. Their minds have no obstructions and no fear. Passing on or beyond perversity, they attain the final nirvana. Also, all the Buddhas reside perfectly in the three times, having relied upon the perfection of wisdom, became manifest, complete Buddhas in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the equal to the unequal mantra, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, since it's not false, should be known as the truth. Mantra of perfection of wisdom is proclaimed, Tayata Om Gata Gata Paragata Parasamkari Bodhi Soham. Shariputra, Bodhisattva, great being, should train the perfection of wisdom like this. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration, said to Spirit Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, that he'd spoken well. Good and good, O son of the and it's like that. Since it's like that, just as you have revealed, in that way the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra, Spirit of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, and the entire circle of disciples, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, demigods, and spirits, were delighted and highly praised what had been spoken by the Blessed One. Just going to chant the Prajnaparamita mantra here 7 times. Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisoha. Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisoha. Om Gache Gache Para Gache Para Samgache Bodhi So Om Gache Gache Para Gache Para Samgache Bodhi So Om Gache Gache Para Gache Para Samgache Bodhi Soha Om Gache Gache Para Gache Para Samgache Bodhi Soha Om Gache Gache Para Gache Para Samgache Bodhi Soha. Okay, so let's just take a moment to do our meditation here. Let's visualize ourselves being seated in wide open space, ground like lapis, a beautiful blue color, warm and soft to sit on, open in all directions as far as the eye can see, and beautiful blue sky above it's like a dome without any clouds, just sort of a nice summer sort of sunlight, you'd sort of say, but you know, we don't want the sun kind of in the way, maybe behind us or so. We have the whole sort of spot in front nice and clear so we can visualize. And around us are all sentient beings. So our mother on our left, father on our right, people we love the most as support behind us, and people we like the least or have issues with in front of us. We're working out those karmic relationships, karmic debts, doing healing on us and them. Then we can feel, sort of visualize and see just all sentient beings sort of moving out concentric circles outwards. So we can just feel people from all over the world are here with us. Different cultures and backgrounds, countries and so forth, even from people from different world systems, as they say in Buddhism, different dimensions or I guess parallel timelines, you could think. We can think about people in places of conflict or great suffering right now. For instance, people in the war, the Ukraine, Russia, and Ukraine right now. We can just sort of put our mind there, sending this love and compassion out to them. There's all sorts of places around the world where people are suffering. Animals from countless different ecosystems here in the world, from the very small to the very big. Celestial beings, different gods and demigods, Zaram gods, and then even formless realm gods, which are basically just sort of minds in deep jhana states. They're all here with us. And spirit beings from the spirit world, astral and ethereal realms, just the bardo and in-between states as well. They're all here with us. And then finally, countless numbers of beings in lower states of rebirth in the predator, hungry ghost realm, and hell being realm. So all like just this big sentient being family, we're all here together and practicing meditating together. So in the sky above us, let's visualize. I've actually spoken already for half an hour. My goodness, half the class is gone. We're gonna just do sort of a simplified visualization, and just so we have time to do some teaching. So we're going to visualize the central figure of Lama Chopa being the threefold figure of Tsongkhapa, Buddhishakimuni, and Buddhishakimuni's higher sort of, I guess, angelic form, sort of almost psychic form, you could say, a conqueror Vajradhara, and his partner Vajradhatu Ishvari. So Tsongkhapa is in the sky like a big sun made out of pure lighter energy, and he's a famous Tibetan saint, scholar, yogi from the 1400s in 3 robes of monk, yellow pannet's hat. And in this form, he's in lotus position, and he's holding a begging bowl of medicinal nectar in his left hand, and his right hand is in the teaching mudra. And he's holding this at his heart with a white lotus around his right shoulder. At his heart, a little smaller, is Buddhishakimuni, and this is the Buddha as we normally see him, just in lotus position, the 3 robes of a monk, but again with a begging bowl, with medicinal nectar in his left hand, and right hand with the subduing mudra touching the earth. Now at his heart, smaller still, is his higher form, the angelic form, Sambhogakaya, enjoyment body form of Buddha, which is Conqueror, Vajradhara, and Vajradhara. So they're kind of like yin and yang. In sexual embrace, he's in lotus position, she's straddling him with her arms around his neck. And the beautiful dark blue sapphire energy bodies, like blue sapphire, and they have crowns and beautiful jewelry and so forth. He's got a bell in his left hand, dorje in his right. She's got a skull cup with medicinal nectar in her left hand, curved chopping knife or cleaver in her right. So it's beautiful, like a big sun in the sky. We're all sort of looking up on this beautiful, beautiful 3 gurus here. So taking refuge, I and all sentient beings until we achieve enlightenment, go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I and all sentient beings to achieve enlightenment, go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I and all sentient beings to achieve enlightenment, go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Generating bodhicitta, through the virtues we collect by giving other perfections, may we become a Buddha for the benefit of all. Through the virtues we collect by giving other perfections, may we become a Buddha for the benefit of all. Through the virtues we collect by giving other perfections, may we become a Buddha for the benefit of all. Just visualize white lights and nectars coming from the heart of Vajradhara and Vajradhara, coming down, purifying us. This sort of the refuge purification here, the visualization. So all of our negativities and obscurations, obstructions, bad energy are all getting flushed out of us, making us all sort of crystal clear and clean. So like a soft white light, like a moonlight going down, purifying us. And now like sort of a soft sunlight, like an autumn light, I guess you could say, from the sun coming down. And this is sort of giving us spiritual energy. First one's purification, second one's kind of virtue energy or merit energy. This is sort of coming down, bringing us up sort of an energy level or vibrational level here. Allowing us to sort of realize the teachings of wisdom, compassion, power, and so forth. Generating the 4 measurables. May everyone be happy. May everyone be free from misery. May no one ever be separated from their happiness. And may everyone have equanimity, free from hatred and attachment. Now doing the 7 limb practice to make our practice Buddhist. Again, we can just sort of, first of all, prostration. Feel that we're just sort of making prostration, signs of love and respect to the merit field here, to Tsongkhapa, Buddha, and Divine Couple, Vajradhara and Vajradhara. Make all sort of offerings from our heart. We can visualize that we're sending beautiful flowers out in all directions, made out of pure light. Or even more auspicious, so we can visualize that we're sending out from our countless butter lamps or candles, representing the Dharmakaya mind or light of wisdom. Pardon me. Confession and rejoicing. So, or declaration, you can just sort of, it's like we're owning, opening up, and sort of standing up and admitting our faults, our character flaws, the issues that we have, conscious and unconscious. And again, that we're going to own them. They're ours, they're who we are, and we're going to outgrow them and overcome them. So just before all the Buddhas here, just in all sentient beings, we're just sort of making a little vow to do better. Our spiritual path really sort of being about self-overcoming. And rejoicing. There's a lot of, like I say, a lot of bad things in the world. Every time you turn on the news, it's all sorts of anger and fear and hatred and despair and greed and all these negative things you hear about. But at the same time, there's all sorts of goodness going on, countless acts of kindness and care and love going out through the world. It's little small acts on a day-to-day basis and big ones. The good things that we do, that people we know and care about do, good things all over the world, even good things that the Buddhas do, and different Buddhist angels. So we can just rejoice in all of this. So this is choosing to sort of look at the glass being half full rather than half empty when we're looking at the world. From our hearts, just asking all the Buddhists, all of our gurus and guides to stay with us and to teach. So just always, we just sort of always be, request, please be in our life as a guide, a light. Always stay with us, guide us to enlightenment, lifetime after lifetime. So we have a beautiful white lion throne that we sort of send up. Dissolves into Tsongkhapa, please stay with us. And a gold and 8-spoked Dharma wheel. Please always teach us the Dharma. Please always guide us, give us personal advice. Please, as our teachers in this life, give us Buddhism in a way that's personal advice that we can really sort of use in our day-to-day life with the choices that we make. Please continue to do this for us. And now dedicating all of this to the enlightenment of all sentient beings. The last offering here, let's just holding up at from our hearts, purified universe, the mandala. So we can sort of visualize Mount Meru and the 4 continents and 8 subcontinents, if you like. Most of all, just to sort of have this visualize that we're holding up a completely purified universe of all beautiful things that produce sort of joy and bliss. And this is what we're offering to all holy beings here. The ground sprinkled with perfume and spread with flowers, the great mountain, 4 lands, sun and moon, seen as a Buddha land and offered thus, may all beings enjoy such pure lands. Om Idam Guru Radha Mandala Kamyotiyami. Send forth this jewel mantle to you, precious gurus. Okay, in the time that's left here, I'm just going to read a little bit from Lama Chopa's certain verses here, just for the visualization. Okay, so just I wanted to recite the invocation again of the refuge tree for Lama Chopa. So just visualizing the simple image here of Tsongkhapa, Buddhishakimuni, and Conqueror Vajradhara and Vajradhara. We're just sort of invoking them here into this space and just, making offers, but just really sort of doing their, just giving a better sense of their presence. We'll be doing some requests to them, and then we dissolve them into us. In the vast heavens of indivisible voidness and bliss, amidst billowing clouds of Samantha Badra's offerings, at the crest of a wish-granting tree, embellished with leaves, flowers, and fruit, is a lion throne ablaze with precious gems. Upon cushions of a lotus, sun, and full moon sits my root guru, who is kind in all 3 ways. In essence, all Buddhas, the aspect of saffron-robed monk, 1 face, 2 arms, and a radiant white smile. Your right hand is a gesture of expounding the Dharma. Your left hand is a meditative pose, cradles a begging bowl filled with nectar. You are draped with the 3 robes of lustrous saffron. Your head is graced by a planet's golden colored hat. In your heart, all-pervading Lord Vajradhara, with a body blue in color, one face and 2 arms, holding a Vajran bow, embracing Vajradhatu Ishvari. They delight in the play of simultaneous voidness and bliss, and are adorned with the jeweled ornaments of many designs and clothes and garments of heavenly silk. Radiant with thousands of light rays, you are emblazoned with the major and minor marks of a Buddha, and sit in the Vajra position and hail above 5 colored rainbows. Totally pure, your skandhas are the 5 Buddhas gone to bliss. Your 4 elements are the 4 motherly consorts. The bliss of your senses, energy channels, sinews, and joints are all in reality bodhisattvas. The hairs of your pores are the 21,000 arhats. Your limbs are the wrathful protectors, light rays, direction guardians, lords of wealth and attendants, while all worldly gods are but cushions for your feet. Surrounding you in their respective orders, encircling sea of action, lineage gurus, yidams, hosts of mandala deities, Buddhas, bodhisattvas, viras, dakinis, and protectors of the teachings. 3 doors of each are marked by the 3 Vajras, from their syllables of whom light rays go out and hook light, draw forth from their natural abodes the wisdom beings so that they become inseparably set. You are the source of all goodness, bliss, and perfection, O root and lineage gurus, yidams, 3 jewels of refuge, viras, dakinis, dharmapas, and protectors, with entourage from the 3 times, by the power of compassion, come forth and abide steadfast. Though all things are totally free of inherent coming and going, still you rise through virtuous conduct of wisdom, loving compassion. Whatsoever forms to suit the temperament of your disciples, O holy refuge protectors, please come forth with your entourage. Om Guru Buddha Bodhisattva Dharmapala Saparivar Ehai Hi Sa Hum Bam Ho. Wisdom and symbolic beings become non-dual. So again, just by visualizing Tsongkhapa, Buddha, and Vajradhara here, just really feel that they're just the embodiment of all of our teachers of this life and all other holy beings and light beings, all the Buddhas. It's just a sense when you do the Lama Chopa visualization here, that it's what they call body mandala, just that Tsongkhapa's body itself is almost a universe of Buddhas. Well, it is a universe of Buddhas, of course, but just like in terms of the descriptions there, all the different sort of Buddha paradises and Buddha fields are one with his body. So making requests here to dissolve the Guru into our hearts. I really like this old translation from Alexander Berzin because I find it very, very eloquent, very sort of poetic. So requests, we make our request to you, O holders of the elders Vinaya, O Master, 2nd Buddhas clad in saffron. You bring with treasure of jewels of much hearing, they are a source of excellence and immense ocean of moral discipline. We make our request to you, Mahayana Gurus, Lords of the Dharma, represent the victorious ones without exception. You possess the 10 qualities that render you suitable guides along the path of those who have gone to bliss. We make our request to you, foremost holders of the Vajra. You are skilled in explaining and composing, are endowed with both sets of 10 qualities and the knowledge of Tantra and its rituals. You are honorable, without pretense of guile, patient, broad-minded, with your 3 doors well subdued. We make our request to you, compassionate refuge protectors. With the precision you impart the good way of those gone to bliss, to the unruly beings of this degenerate age who are difficult to curb and are not tamed by the countless Buddhas of the past. We make our request to you, compassionate refuge protectors. Unite the deeds of the victorious ones for the many beings who lack a protective refuge, at this time when the sunlight teachings of the sage are setting. We make our request to you, compassionate refuge protectors. Even a single hair from your pores is for us a field of merit more highly praised than all the victorious Buddhas of the 3 times of 10 directions. We make our request to you, compassionate refuge protectors, from an intricate lattice of mirage-like skillful means, emblazed with the 3 body wheels of those gone to bliss. You manifest in an ordinary guise to lead all beings. We make our request to you, supreme gurus, the essence of the 3 jewels of refuge. Your aggregates, elements, sensory bases, and limbs are in the nature of the fathers, mothers, male and female bodhisattvas, and the wrathful protectors of the 5 Buddha families. We make our request to you, protectors of primordial unity, foremost holders of the Vajra, all pervading lords of hundreds of Buddha families, unfolding from the play of omniscient, pristine awareness. You are the quintessence of the 10 million mandala cycles. We make our request to you, immaculate Samantabhadra, or in reality, ultimate Bodhicitta, free of beginning or end. The nature of all things pervading everything in motion and at rest, inseparable from simultaneous bliss in play without obstruction. You are gurus, you are yidams, you are dakinis and dharma protectors, From this moment to our enlightenment, we seek no refuge other than you. In this life, the bardo in all future lives, hold us with the hook of your compassion. Free us from samsara and nirvana's fears. Grant all the attainments, be our unfailing friend, and guard us from all interferences. You are our gurus, you are the yidams, you are our dakinis and dharma protectors. From this moment to our enlightenment, we need seek no refuge other than you. In this life, the bardo in all future lives, hold us with the hook of your compassion. Free us from samsara and nirvana's fears. Grant all the attainments, be our unfailing friend, and guard us from all interferences. You are our gurus, you are yidams, you are dakinis and dharma protectors. From this moment to our enlightenment, we need seek no refuge other than you. In this life, the bardo in all future lives, hold us with the hook of your compassion. Free us from samsara and nirvana's fears. Grant all the attainments, be our unfailing friend, and guard us from all interferences. So just asking for blessings of the gurus here. Let's visualize in the sky above us here. Tsongkhapa starts to emit beautiful light like a sun from his heart. And then starts to sort of dissolve. He's made out of light or energy. So it's almost like just starts to sort of melt into sort of a golden light here. And starts melting inward. So the energy is sort of going inward here. Into his heart, into the Buddha. So now only Buddha's in the sky here. And then he starts to melt in the golden light and dissolves into his heart, into Vajradhara and Vajradhara. So now they're the sky, beautiful divine couple, and sort of a sapphire blue, like a blue sapphire or a blue diamond in the sky. And just feel that they're softly emitting rainbow lights out from the sort of beautiful blue hum letter, HUM, representing the enlightened mind, sort of, which is floating between their hearts. They're in sexual embrace, sort of between them. So white light and yellow light, red light, green light, blue light. And they get small. Start to sort of shrink down to about the size of your, they always started to say your little fingernail here, pinky fingernail, or about the size of a sunflower seed. So that they're sort of the embodiment of all the Buddhas, all holy beings, all light beings, angel beings, the compassion, the wisdom, power of the Buddhas, and they sort of float down to the crown of our head. Turn around so they're facing the same direction as us, and very, very slowly, because they're made out of energy, enter our crown chakra and then start to descend and dissolve into our heart. So once they get to our heart, just feels again just like you're dropping a little blue food coloring into a big glass of water. So just like zzz, sort of dissolves and sort of goes everywhere. Their enlightened mind is, and by extension, our guru's enlightened mind is the same as ours, sort of water being poured into water here. You can feel great joy and bliss. Bliss being a great sense of peace, spaciousness, a sense of totality. No feeling of dissatisfaction or anything, just sort of a great oneness. And then joy, sort of great positive power potential that we have. Okay, so just coming out of meditation here. So we're just going to have I guess I got about 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so. Just going to do a short presentation, first of probably many classes we'll be doing on Buddhist concept of emptiness. This is the big one. So of course it won't be complete or exhaustive or anything. And as always, like I say, if please let me know if there's issues with this, you don't agree with it or make mistakes. As I always say, anything that goes well is always sort of blessings of my gurus, teachers, my gurus, and any mistakes are, of course, my own, but my own lack of ability or understanding here. This is a very complicated topic. In a lot of ways, countless saints and scholars have spent a better part of 2,500 years writing and thinking and working and meditating on this. So we being sort of students, Dharma students, I mean, of course, this is you spend your whole life studying emptiness. And of course, the most important thing is it's not just an intellectual study. It has to be a personal practice, a personal ethic or a lifestyle, a way of life. Because it's one thing just to have a correct intellectual view of emptiness. It's quite another to realize emptiness directly. Geshe, my coach, always said funny, he said you can divide the world up into two kinds of people or two kinds of beings, which is everyone who has seen emptiness directly and everyone else who hasn't, which is of course the vast majority of people. So when you perceive emptiness directly, they call you an Arya or a higher being. Like at that point, you are no longer a regular person, you're no longer a human being, kind of by definition. You're something completely different. You're a higher sort of spiritual being from having this experience. And of course, we shall see that when you think about it, of the four Arya truths are noble truths. You are no being, Arya being a higher being. By seeing these truths directly, having direct experience and knowing that they're true, if it's true sufferings, which we all know, true origins of these true sufferings, which are the origins lying in your self-cherishing mind, self-grasping mind, true cessations, that it's, if these things have been turned on, it's possible to turn them off or to have cessations to stop the sufferings. And then how do we do this? Through true paths. When you think about it, you've got sort of the eightfold path of all the different right actions and right views that we have to have as a Buddhist to make these true cessations stick or work. But when you think about it, the ultimate true cessation, the one that we're really working on that makes us a Buddhist, of course, is emptiness. And we'll see that when what we're really taking refuge in, when we say that we're Buddhist, which means we take refuge in the three jewels, basically when you think about it, in the big picture, what you're taking refuge in is an emptiness. In the Buddha nature teachings, they say that the Buddha of the three jewels is the highest thing to take refuge in. The Buddha is an example, the Buddha as sort of the being that we're trying to be ourselves and move towards this. Well, what is a Buddha? What is, the Buddha is one who's woken up. Woken up to what? Woken up out of the sleep of ignorance, seeing emptiness directly. In LamRim, they say that what you're really taking refuge in is the Dharma Jewel, which is basically your own inner wisdom, or inner awareness. Inner wisdom for what? The wisdom that sees emptiness directly. So in the end, we're always sort of coming back to emptiness. And again, we're just going to go on and on and on about this. There's so much to say. I've just got a little bit of notes here to teach today. But another thing, one of my first teacher, again, Kelsing Tarchin, back in 1995 in Toronto, he had a great thing. He said it was his teacher. And I don't know if it was, he had all great teachers in the 1970s and 80s. If it was Lama Chopa or Lama Yeshe or Geshe Darge, for instance, I can't remember who it was, but he used to say, he told Tarchin, he said, many people meditate on emptiness. Few of them have the correct object. In other words, we say something like emptiness, but do we really know what that is? Do we really know what that means? Do we really know that as an object in the sense to have a correct, what they call generic image or concept of what it is that we want to meditate on? Oftentimes, like even if we say no self, what anatta, what does that mean? What do we? So this is why this thing has to be studied, because you can have the wrong view or wrong concept and it's mistaken, and then nothing will happen. You'll be meditating for years on it. You won't get any spiritual realizations, or worse, if it's an incorrect object, wrong object, you might draw wrong conclusions on an ethical level in terms of, the way of living your life that creates more problems and sufferings for yourself. Like you might think emptiness is nothingness. So I'm not picking on my teacher, but when I started studying Buddhism in University of Ottawa in 1992, it was the course called Oriental Philosophy. Offensive now, I'm sure, but we studied Buddhism. That's what sort of, for the first time, I had formal study of Buddhism, something that I'd felt and believed in my whole life as a little boy in Canada in the 1970s and 80s. I was able to study this in 1992, and my teacher used to teach down at UCLA. He was a sort of prominent teacher on Buddhism, and I don't blame him, because it was just Buddhist scholarship probably back then in the 60s, 70s, and 80s wasn't all that great compared to what it is now. But he'd always say that emptiness is nothingness. It's the nothing that, as a Buddhist, we have to strive towards nothingness. And I remember even at the time going, I don't know about this. It doesn't, it was a really good source book. We had source book in Indian philosophy, source book in Chinese philosophy, which you can still get. And it was like, it doesn't really say that in the book, but anyway. But what would be the consequence of believing that everything is nothing? Well, then you wouldn't believe in karma. You wouldn't think that anything matters, and then that you would think that anything goes. A lot of people, this was sort of a view of emptiness that a lot of cartoon, what they used to call beat Zen people in the 1950s were. It's just like had sort of a wrong version of Zen where everything is kind of illusory, everything's nothing. So just party, just do a lot of drugs, run around, have no ethical responsibility to others whatsoever. And then this is the real idea of non-self. And it's just life's one big party. Ironically, in India, 2,500 years ago, there was a Professor Robert Thurman talks about this a lot in one of his books. I think it's in Inner Revolution or something. I can't remember. Anyway, there's been a number of things. I studied this when I did that sort of class on Buddhism and Chinese thought and stuff years ago. But there was a very popular branch of Indian philosophy and practice called Charvaka materialism, where they said that basically if everything is matter and everything is just atoms and everything's random, things are just, there's no karma, things are just what they are, just randomly in terms of the interaction between different molecules or atoms, then the only kind of non-self that we have is the non-self of this randomness and absurdity of life. And so the spiritual non-self teachings that matter are when you lose yourself in pleasure or having a good time. So I lose all my thoughts and cares when I'm having a nice day doing downhill skiing in Whistler, or I'm losing myself, my ego, when I'm on the beach in Florida, drinking Mai Tais or playing golf or something. So that's what's important, is just the non-self of hedonism. And so the most important thing in life is to pursue these hedonistic pleasures, even if it means at the expense of anybody else. There's absolutely no ethics whatsoever. And this was seen, of course, as a very controversial philosophy. And Robert Thurman said, Professor Thurman, saying that a lot of these Charvaka materialists ended up becoming even like political pundits and sort of counselors for local kings and aristocrats and this and that, and just like how to maximize your worldly happiness at the expense of other people. Of course, this must sound familiar because there's people nowadays that believe the same thing. So you can see, if we have the wrong view of emptiness, how we can even get into bad ethical behavior and increase our sufferings, because the law of karma still applies here for ourselves and for others. The other thing is that if you think if you think emptiness is nothingness, what if I go on the other side, like they call the two absolute wrong views here? One being everything is nothing, or emptiness is nothingness. Other being that emptiness is something eternal, something self-existing, whatever. This would be that emptiness is some sort of God, some sort of divine, unchanging principle that lies at the heart of me, or who I truly am, my higher self or higher reality, ultimate reality, this and that. And that, of course, Buddhism, we end up seeing that on a rational level through logic. That's a mistake. We can't believe in something that lies outside of any kind of relationship to anything else. There's no such thing. So emptiness can't be that. There has to be what they call an emptiness of emptiness. Emptiness itself can't be substantially existent. And again, there's a problem with seeing that. It becomes, there's a lot of grasping and fanaticism and sort of ecclesiasticism that you get when you believe that emptiness is something like a God. I don't run around criticizing, but sometimes you meet people just say, oh, you know, I'm Buddhist, I believe in God. And it's like, oh, okay, well, what's that mean, right? Now, it's not from, you know, it's not my responsibility to run around and change people's minds. But again, that's a mistaken view of emptiness. It isn't some kind of ultimate reality or higher reality or God or creator or anything else. And all sorts of problems can result from that, as we know. Like, for instance, you might, if emptiness is like a God, then you might take all of the Buddhist principles literally and become some kind of religious fundamentalist that ends up judging or causing all sorts of problems for other people. Anyway, there you go. So it is very important, like my first teacher said, to have a correct view of emptiness when we're studying. So my notes here, basically, you can't reach nirvana without realizing emptiness directly. So one thing you end up seeing is that there's two ways of perceiving emptiness. One is what they call seeing emptiness with reasoning or a mental image, or seeing it directly. So what we're going to start when we talk about basically 5 paths to enlightenment: path of accumulation, where accumulation, good, merit, virtue, energy, sort of preparing ourselves to see emptiness directly and become a Buddha, becoming enlightened. It's path of preparation is once we've sort of have the 3 higher trainings of moral discipline and concentration, mind of tranquil abiding, non-distracted mind, we can meditate. This is the wisdom is the next of the 3 higher trainings. Then we actually take emptiness as an object. So in the path of preparation, we're preparing to see emptiness directly, to have a direct experience or realization of emptiness, where you see it directly, just like seeing, you know, we don't need to use inferential logic or anything because we see it directly. Like I'm seeing, let's say, my mala directly. I don't need this proven to me that I'm seeing it. I have an experience of having it here. I don't need inferential logic or somehow to try and logically prove to myself I'm actually have this in my hand. I can see it. I have it in my hand right here. It's the same thing when we see emptiness directly. We know exactly what we're perceiving with our mind when we perceive it. But up until that point, you're perceiving it through what they call a generic image or a concept or a picture. I guess you could say a representation. Don't like using that word, but they call mental image. That's what we're working on when we're studying emptiness intellectually. So we have to have the sort of correct understanding of emptiness. And we see as we go a little further on this course, there's basically 4 main schools of emptiness, or 4 main pictures of emptiness you could see, what they call the Vaibhashika or Abhidharma school, the Sautrantika school. This is, I guess, the Sutric school, then the mind-only school, Yogacara school, and then the middle way school, Madhyamika school. So these are all different pictures of emptiness. They all go together almost dialectically, like Hegel would say, like each one leads to the next one. In German, they call it Aufhebung, which means transcending, but keeping the best parts still. I guess that's a bad way, but as you're transcending something, parts of that former structure are still within you as you're sort of going into a new structure. So those 4 schools of emptiness, you'll see each one is relatively correct, but the final correct one is the Madhyamika school. That version of emptiness or image of emptiness is the one that we're going to be using the most. So we'll end up studying the Vaibhashika school. We'll see that the Sutric school fixes the problems of the Vaibhashika school, gives it a fuller presentation of emptiness. There's issues or limitations with that, corrected by the mind-only school. And then finally, the middle way school presents you with the correct object of emptiness, the correct view. And that's the one that we meditate on. So when we meditate on that with what they call sort of a correct inferential valid mind, it's a correct view, but we're not seeing emptiness directly. We're just looking at a generic image. But with our mind of constant sort of tranquil abiding or deeply concentrated mind, eventually what happens as we're meditating and we sort of perceive into this image it falls away, the concept falls away, and you get the object itself, which is emptiness. That's what they call the path of insight or path of seeing. That's when I perceive emptiness directly. At that point, I'm an Arya being. At this point here, I am leaving samsara. I'm leaving, I'm waking up from my ignorance. I'm on my way, really on the way to enlightenment. So they call at that point, you're a stream enterer, like you're on a stream floating down the stream, or like Geshe Michael said, like you're on a conveyor belt. At that point, you're on your way out of samsara. Why? Because you're waking up from your ignorance. You're starting to see things as they really are, rather than what your ignorant mind's been presenting you with. So then the last two, of course, are the path of what they call meditation or habituation. I'm just training more and more and habituating myself to this experience of emptiness, embodying it in my life. And then path of no more learning as I actually end up becoming enlightened. So when I have a direct realization, because they call that a yogic direct perceiver. So up until that point, when I'm working with a mental image, it's an inferential mind, it's an indirect mind. Where there's smoke, there's fire. I see smoke pouring out of a condo. I think, well, there's a fire in the condominium. I don't see it directly, but I see the smoke. I know it's there. If I take the elevator up or whatever, go into the room with the fire extinguisher, I see that there's actual fire in the condo. The yogic direct perceiver is just like my mind and the object become one. It's a direct perception. There isn't any doubt. I don't need any logic or any indirect way of reasoning or perceiving, because I perceive it directly. So yogic direct perceiver. And it's at that point, even yogic direct perceiver, yoga, like they mean yoking, pulling together, it is kind of like a practice or an embodiment, in the sense that at that point, when you perceive emptiness directly, they always say you can never be convinced that you didn't see it. Like you'll never fall out of that perception or realization. Realization, it is an experience that does not degenerate or change. You know you've seen emptiness, you know what it is, no one can convince you otherwise. You see, it's not like you sit on the couch, your best friend says, well, I don't think you saw it, I think you're just whatever, high on drugs, that wasn't that. It's like, no, I know exactly what happened, I know exactly what I saw. I am no longer the same being, I'm no longer the same person, a higher being, I'm no longer a normal human being. I've seen ultimate truth of things. I've woken up. Anyway, it's getting close to being done here, so I should just finish up. I just want to present what we talk about in this, of course, go on and on and on. When we're presenting emptiness, we end up presenting what this has been studied so much in 1,000 years of Tibetan Buddhism, what they call the two truths. When we present emptiness, we have to present it in terms of context of two things, two truths, which is two realities or two ways of dividing up existence. One being what they call conventional truth, and another being ultimate truth. Again, we'll have to talk, I'd like to talk a little bit, like even going back, there's different ways of talking about emptiness based even on the language that you speak. So, we're saying the word emptiness, that's the English word. The Sanskrit is shunyata, topani is the Tibetan, I believe. But also there's differently, like one of my best friends at work is Japanese, one of my Japanese flight attendant friends. And of course she's Japanese. So when she talks about how she's learning emptiness, the Japanese language is very, very subtle. And their way presented was, she's saying shunya, this and that. We're talking about it. It seems a little easier for her to get the concept based on the grammar of Japanese. So Tibetan was based on Sanskrit. And the good thing about it is when I think it's Somten Gampo, I can't remember which king, I don't think it was Trisang, it must have Somten Gampo, that first Tibetan king. I don't think it was King Trisang Detsen, although it might have been. You can look yourself, go on the internet and find out. But when they actually devised the Tibetan script and really sort of institutionalized the Tibetan language, they based it on Buddhism, which is amazing. And so the very Tibetan grammar that you speak as a Tibetan has Buddhist concepts in it. So it's very easy to get. Whereas with us, let's say speaking English, we have our own sort of values and sort of Judeo-Christian stuff put in it from our background. So sometimes it's a little harder to get these Buddhist images. Like English is a nominative language. And so it's always talking about things. And of course, you've got all different languages going together. We've got Gaelic, we've got Anglo-Saxon, we've got French, in there when the Normans came. And so you've got a lot of different words that are repeated, doubled up, but it's a language of things, English, right? Whereas in the Romantic languages, French, Italian, Spanish, it's a language of processes and feelings, for instance, very, very different. So a lot of times when you say emptiness, people think the ness-ness is like an object. It's something substantially existent, independent of my mind, for instance. So sometimes it's nice to try and use different words to understand what emptiness is. In French, it's vacuité, which is interesting because emptiness means that it's an absence of something. Something's missing. Something, in the case of emptiness, it's the absence of something that was basically that we artificially put there, that's never been there to begin with. It's sort of a false mistaken thing, a false overlay that we put onto things. In French, vacuité means emptiness, but it has a sense of it's empty of something in the word itself. So sometimes I think it's easy, it's kind of interesting to look at different words and different ways of translating the concept. So when I talk about same thing, when we're talking about two truths, again, we might have to come at this from a bunch of different angles so people don't get confused. But it is a way of dividing up reality. So we'll come back. Conventional truth is basically also what we call deceptive truth. In other words, things look one way, but really exist in a different way. And that's why it's incorrect or deceptive. It's true for us on one level, but ultimately it's not true. Okay, we'll see what that is and what that means. Ultimate truth is the way something appears and the way it is, they're the same, which is undeceptive. That is emptiness. So what we'll see is normal objects are conventionally true, which means they look like they're truly existent. They look like they're existent independent of relationships. They look like they're existing independently of your mind, but they're not, right? Their side. So every object has these two aspects to it. It is conventionally true and ultimately true, right? So on a conventional level, objects look like they're really absolutely real, but they're not. But on an ultimate level, they're empty. So looking just at ultimate truth, emptiness is what it appears to be. It's always the same. It basically, it's an honest thing. It is what it is. It says what it is what it says it is, so to speak, right? However, conventional things, like I say, look one way, but they're really another. So both of them go together. Every object or phenomena we're looking at has a conventional side and an ultimate side. I hope this doesn't make people a little more confused than when before they came to this class, but we'll talk this more and more and more in the next few classes here. Yeah, so, our ignorance basically is we think things are substantially existing. The truth of the matter is once we see that they're empty, we see their proper ontological status, basically, that they don't have an ontology and they're not truly existing. So anyway, let's just leave it there for now, and we'll keep coming back, of course, and just to go into more detail about this. But they always say, I can't remember in which sutra, that even just to start to study emptiness or to think that it's true, even approach some of these ideas, they say that samsara starts to shake as a whole edifice, as a huge sort of castle or tower, it starts to quake, about to fall apart. It's almost like a little bit of doubt here starts to shake up the matrix, so to speak. We see that it's not really true. I'll just end on that level. So thanks very much for coming today. Just take a moment to dedicate. And again, let's really sort of put our thoughts and prayers and care into all people suffering from war right now. Again, if we're studying emptiness, let's really, really project this out. Let's project this out as an antidote to all the self-cherishing and self-grasping mind that's always at the root of all violence in the world. By blessings of all holy beings, the truth of karma, the causes and their effects, the power of our pure spirit intention of bodhicitta, and all of our dharma wishes be fulfilled, and all sentient beings reach full awakening. Okay, thanks very much, and we'll see everybody next time.